We've got a really perplexing story for you today. It's one of those Hollywood head scratchers.
Yeah, it involves a huge A-list star, someone whose name usually means instant buzz, massive hits.
Exactly. But her latest project, something clearly very personal to her, well, it was basically down for the count on opening weekend. We're talking about Christy, the boxing biopic starring Sydney Sweeney.
And right away, you just got to ask, how does that happen? Like Sydney Sweeney, you expect something big, right, whatever the movie is.
Yeah.
But Christy just struggled
Yeah.
massively right out of the gate.
Totally. But as we started digging into it, looking at the sources, we realized, okay, this is way more than just a box office flop.
Oh, absolutely. The emotional stakes were incredibly high with this one.
Yeah, this wasn't just another boxing movie. It's the true story of Christy Martin. A real pioneer in women's boxing, sure, but also, and this is key, a survivor of absolutely horrific domestic abuse.
And that's where it gets fascinating, right? Because the whole conversation shifted almost immediately from the cold, hard numbers to this really deeply personal mission behind the film.
It stopped being about ticket sales.
Yeah, it became about intention versus reception. What the art meant to achieve, raising awareness, survival, versus how it actually landed with the public. And honestly, how all the noise around it might have just suffocated the whole thing.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this. We want to figure out how a film with this star, this powerful real-life story, could just stall like that. We've looked at the box office reports, Sweeney's own defense of the film, the kind of weird history of boxing biopics, and, yeah, the huge controversy swirling around it. So let's start with that initial shock, the numbers, because they were, well, pretty grim.
Grim is putting it mildly. Christie opens wide, right? Over 2,000 theaters. And it pulls in just $1.3 million that first weekend.
Oof. And what was the budget? Like $15 million?
Around $15 million, yeah. So financially, that's a huge hit. Box Office Mojo actually ranks it as one of the worst openings for a wide release this year. From a purely Hollywood business standpoint, it looked like a clear failure.
But that's where Sweeney stepped in almost immediately.
Right. She didn't hide. She went straight to Instagram, posted this really raw, heartfelt message. And she basically challenged that whole idea that box office equals success.
Yeah, she said she was proud of it, that its value wasn't just about the money. She had that line that really became the film's rallying cry, didn't she?
She did. We don't always just make art for numbers. We make it for impact. Powerful stuff.
And she really leaned into that, explained the film's mission.
Yeah, she talked about it representing survival, courage, and hope. She said the whole team felt that telling Christy Martin's actual story, getting it out there, it could save lives, really shine a light on domestic violence.
And when you look at the real Christy Martin story, I mean, you get it. You understand why they felt that way.
Absolutely. This woman had 49 professional wins, a total trailblazer. But the sources really focus on that darker side, surviving an attempted murder by her own husband, who was also her trainer. Just horrific.
And her journey since then, finding herself, coming out as gay, marrying another former boxer, Lisa Holwine. It's an incredible story of resilience.
It really is. And that context explains everything, doesn't it? Why Sweeney and the filmmakers were so focused on the impact, the message, maybe more than the opening weekend gross.
Okay, so powerful story, passionate star defending it, but still, that $1.3 million, why didn't people show up?
Well, it kind of seems like Christie stumbled into a known problem area for movies.
Yeah, looking at the bigger picture, the sources suggest this film's struggle wasn't, like, totally out of the blue. There seems to be this, let's call it the boxing biopic curse.
It really does feel like a curse, especially for movies about real boxers. Audiences seem to love fictional boxing stories, Rocky, even Raging Bull to an extent. But when it's a straight biopic based closely on a real athlete's life, something often just doesn't connect commercially.
There are so many examples, right? We looked into it. Like, remember The Fire Inside about Clarissa Shields?
Yeah, last year. Got good reviews, actually.
Positive reviews.
Yeah.
But the opening, $1.96 million. It only made about $8 million total domestically. It just didn't find that wide audience.
And go back further, remember Against the Ropes with Meg Ryan from 2004.
Oh, yeah. That one got pretty hammered by critics, and the box office was tiny. Ryan even took a big step back from acting after that. She said something like, I felt done when they felt done, probably, like the industry was done with her after that film.
And it's not just about female boxers either. Think about the male biopics. Hands of Stone about Roberto Duran.
Yeah, or Bleed for This, Vinny Pazienza's story. Phantom Punch about Sonny Liston. Same pattern. Sometimes okay reviews, maybe some critical praise, but box office disappointment. They just don't seem to land big.
So what's the takeaway there? It seems the biopics that do manage to break through, films like The Fighter or maybe Cinderella Man,
Right.
they don't have to take more liberties. They fictionalize things a bit more, maybe
Oh.
focus on the family drama or on the boxing. They feel less like a history lesson and more like just a gripping movie.
Exactly. And then you look at the biggest hits in women's boxing films. Totally fictional, Million Dollar Baby, huge, Oscars all over the place, Swank, Freeman, Eastwood, massive critical and commercial success.
Or even Girl Fight. Lower budget, totally fictional story, but it launched Michelle Rodriguez. Launched the director, Karen Kusama, too.
So the pattern seems pretty clear. Audiences generally seem to prefer the pure narrative punch, the fictional drama, over the maybe more straightforward retelling of a real fighter's life.
And that existing weakness, that genre struggle, probably made Christy even more vulnerable to the other stuff going on around it.
Right, because just as those low numbers were coming out, this whole other firestorm erupted. The controversy over authenticity and casting.
Yeah, this is where it got really messy.
Yeah.
And kind of personal, actress Ruby Rose just went scorched earth on social media.
What was her claim again? She was involved earlier?
Yeah, Rose said she was attached to an earlier version of the script, called it life-changing, said it was really authentic, queer-led, and she was supposed to play a character named Cherry. She sounded incredibly passionate about that version.
Okay, so she felt strongly about that original take.
Extremely. And she was furious that the project ended up with Sweeney in the lead role, which was presumably different from the Cherry character she was attached to. She didn't hold back at all.
No, she didn't. She called Sweeney a cretin, said she ruined the film. Pretty brutal stuff.
And then she made that accusation about hypocrisy, right? Claiming none of the people want to see someone who hates them parading around pretending to be us.
Really doubling down on this idea of who gets to tell whose story.
Which, that whole debate about representation and authenticity, it's a really important one. Who has the right to tell certain stories, especially about marginalized groups?
It absolutely is. But then if we're looking at all the information, you have to bring in the counterpoint, which is pretty significant here.
You mean Christy Martin herself? Exactly. The actual woman whose life the film is about. While Rose is making these claims about authenticity and who should be telling the story, Christy Martin was actively, publicly supporting Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, she didn't just support her. She was, right there with her, attending premieres, doing press.
Praising her performance. Saying Sweeney really captured her authentically. So you've got this really intense public fight about who should own this narrative, but the subject herself is saying, no, this person got it right. Creates a real tension, doesn't it?
It really does. And all of that controversy piled on top of the disappointing box office. It just feeds into this immense pressure that seems to follow Sweeney around. It kind of reignited all the other scrutiny she faces.
Yeah, you can't really talk about the reception of this film without acknowledging that wider context. It all sort of bleeds together in the public perception.
It's true. The sources point out the, recurring criticism she gets about her politics. The fact she's a registered Republican comes up a lot. That alone colors how certain groups see her and her work, fairly or unfairly.
And then those past personal things resurface, too. Remember the whole thing with her mom's birthday party back in 2022?
Oh, the photos, yeah, with the Make 60 Great Again hats and the Blue Lives Matter shirts. That blew up online.
It really did. And then there was that American Eagle ad thing, which is just bizarre.
The Great Jeans one, I still can't quite believe that happened.
Right. It was supposed to be this simple wordplay ad. Great jeans, like denim. G-E-N-E-S, great jeans. A pun.
A pretty armless pun, you'd think.
You'd think. But somehow some commentators jumped on it, accused it of having, eugenics undertones, even calling it Nazi propaganda over a jeans ad.
Okay, wait, an ad for denim pants because of a pun gets called Nazi propaganda. That just shows the insane level of scrutiny she's under, the sort of bad faith interpretations she has to deal with constantly.
It really does.
Yeah.
And if you pull back, just imagine trying to make art, especially something personal and potentially controversial like Christy, when every single thing you do, every family photo, every ad campaign gets picked apart and weaponized like that. It must be exhausting.
Absolutely. And yet, here's the kicker. Despite all that pressure, all the controversy, the terrible opening weekend, the film itself, it actually reviewed okay. 67% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics. Not amazing, but decent.
But the audience score, that's the really wild part.
98%, an audience score of 98%. That's almost unheard of.
It really is. So the people who actually went to see it, Despite everything, they overwhelmingly loved it.
So what does that tell you?
Exactly. It points to a film that probably had real impact for its audience, but its theatrical run was sabotaged by factors outside the movie itself. Maybe finds its life on streaming or VOD now. The audience is there, apparently. They just didn't make it to the cinema initially.
So wrapping this all up, what are the big takeaways for you listening? We've seen this specific risk with boxing biopics, how fictional stories often connect better financially. And we've seen just how complicated things get when an artist's public persona and all the controversies around them crash right into the mission of their art.
Yeah, and it leaves us with a really important question, I think. If the goal, like Sweeney said, was impact and awareness, and the film did get decent reviews, and crucially got the stamp of approval from Christy Martin herself, does that opening weekend number really define its success?
Is it about the money earned? Or maybe the potential lives touched, like they hoped?
Or maybe, do we, as audiences, need to get better at separating things? Separating the artist from the arts, the message from the media storm around it, the perceived politics from the actual story being told. Just so important stories like this one actually get a fair shot.
Definitely something to think about next time you're deciding what to watch. What matters most to you? The box office buzz, the story's message, or navigating that whole authenticity battle playing out behind the scenes?
Food for thought.
Thanks for joining us as we sorted through all this. Hopefully you feel a bit more clued in, maybe even a little more empathetic about what it takes to tell these kinds of personal, impactful stories today. We'll catch you next time.